I returned my Sony A75 and I replaced it with another Sony A7 IV, and this is why. Sony A75 is a beautiful piece of equipment, but after the launch there's a lot of hypes and a lot of dust around it. But when all the dust settled, it all becomes a game of functionality and compatibility. I am an hybrid wedding photographer. I do both videos, content, and pictures. And since I've already been shooting the Sony A7 IV for the past 3-4 years now, I've had no issues with the Sony A7 IV. But one of the reasons why I jumped ship earlier to the Sony A75 system was because my Sony A7 IV at the time had an issue, and I've always had my Sony A7 III with me. So I've been using Sony A7 III and Sony A7 IV concurrently for every wedding where I had to use 2 cameras. As a wedding photographer, you have to have 2 camera bodies in your bag. But when my Sony A7 IV had a fault, I immediately pre-ordered the Sony A7 V. When the Sony A7 V came, I started using it and started comparing it with the Sony A7 IV. Now, the first thing I noticed was the price jump and the price gap between the Sony A7 IV and the Sony A7 V is like £1,200. It all boils down to a simple mathematical question. Are the functions in Sony A7 V worth £1,200 over Sony A7 IV? Now that question was not answered by the Sony A7 V for me, and that is one of the reasons why I changed and bought another Sony A7 IV. Over the years, Sony A7 IV is probably one of the best cameras ever produced by Sony. From my own standpoint, one of the best versatile cameras ever produced by Sony is the Sony A7 IV. So I expected a little bit of more functionality embedded in the Sony A7 V to make it worth the upgrade. If you're a Sony A4 shooter, you might not take my word for it. Go ahead, buy or hire or rent the Sony A7 V, shoot them, and you will definitely see there's hardly any difference in those cameras. Probably one of the major differences you will see is the LCD, because a lot of people complain you only have the flip out screen on the Sony A7 IV, but now you have the tilt screen and also the flip out screen, the 4-axis screen on the Sony A7 V. Is that worth £1,200? Your guess is as good as mine. Now, moving forward, one of the other reasons why I do not appreciate the Sony A7 V is because as an hybrid shooter and also content shooter, I shoot a lot of reels and slow-mo videos. The max I can still get on the Sony A7 V is 4K 50 or 4K 60. I've been shooting 4K 60 with a bit of 1.2 times crop or so on my Sony A7 IV, and a lot of times I get away with that because if you mount your 35mm on your Sony A7 IV with a little bit of a punching, probably you end up getting like 50mm or 45mm ish, which is still a very good depth of field. And because you're shooting video, the punching does not reduce the quality of your video. So I love the 4K quality of the Sony A7 IV, so I don't see a reason why the Sony A7 V by itself would not have an inbuilt 4K 120 or probably 4K 100 even at the minimum. But because that is not even part of the game for them, is a no-no for me. And a lot of people say they don't have a reason for open gate. They've been shooting their videos without open gate, but open gate is a new technology a lot of others other competitors are adding to their equipment. I don't see a reason why Sony can just add open gate to Sony A7 V and allow us to use the entire sensor to record our videos. Now, for instance, I'm recording this video for YouTube and I have the intention of cropping it, some part of it for Instagram and YouTube short, but it's going to make it a bit tight. Now, cutting that for YouTube short and Instagram or making reels and TikTok videos from it is going to be a little bit tight on my face. But with the open gate system, we have a little bit of wiggle room at the top and at the bottom to walk around with my portrait videos, extraction from a vertical video, if you know what I mean. So personally, there's no justification for the money. Is £1,200 difference. There's no open gate. The only difference is you have 4-axis screen, which is probably the only reason why anyone should go for the Sony A75. Lastly, if you are shooting Sony A7 III, or you're trying to get into the mirrorless game, or you coming newly into photography or hybrid shooting, definitely by all means do not get the Sony A7 IV. You want to start with the best equipment in the market, which is the Sony A75, probably the best hybrid camera out there right now. However, if you already have a Sony A7 IV, there's no reason on earth for you to buy the Sony A7 V. Take it from me, I bought it on pre-order and I had to return it. It is your money anyways, and you're an adult, so you can do whatever you want with your money, but take it from me that bought it and returned it. It is not worth the stress. But if you think I missed something in this video, or you feel my review of the camera is biased, please let me know in the comment section. I might probably want to learn 1 or 2 things from you, probably something the camera can do that my Sony A7 IV can do that I missed in this video. If you comment it below, probably be able to agree with you or disagree with you, or educate you or get educated. Either way, you're welcome.